So we'll start now. Okay, so a very good evening to the distinguished speaker and esteemed participants. Welcome to the Decarbonization Business Charter's webinar series Decarb December. Decarb December is a learning series on thought to action in decarbonization. Just to provide a brief about the charter, it was conceived to establish a unified platform that brings together key stakeholders, fostering collaboration for the decarbonization of the building and construction sector. This initiative, which is a collaborative effort between WRI, EEEE, Mahindra Life Spaces, and EcoCollab, aims to address shared challenges and opportunities. The Charter provides a framework to identify and prioritize critical actions, steering efforts towards the common goal of reducing carbon emissions in the sector. Today, we will have the privilege of attending an engaging workshop led by Mr. Alkesh Rajdev, who is a Senior Manager of Sustainability Operations at EKI Energy Services Limited. He is a mechanical engineer who has dedicated nearly a decade to the sustainability domain with the experience of executing over 100 energy audits and managing green building projects spanning over 10 million square feet. Today's webinar will focus on advanced techniques for carbon mapping in the building sector with the aim of achieving net zero buildings. So we can start now with today's session. Over to you, Alkesh.
Thank you, Stuti. Just a second, I'll just share my screen.
Sure.
Uh, is my screen visible?
Not yet, but I think in some time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's visible now.
Oh, great. There are like request is coming to me, Stuti. So I guess you're accepting that, right?
Yeah, yes, I'll do that.
I don't need to worry about it. Okay, great.
No. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Stuti, and thank you so much, AAA team, for organizing this webinar. And I'm glad to please. Am I audible clearly?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. Okay. So during the webinar, I'll request all the attendees to be on mute. If it is something like that, we will take the question and answer at the end of the session. And I'll start with the session. So today we are going to discuss about like making buildings net zero, and then what are the techniques and tools which we can use into the process. So we all know what is greenhouse gas emissions. So I don't need to work like just a second. Great. So we all know about the greenhouse gas effect, and this entire cycle and chain of how basically greenhouse gas traps the heat inside of our Earth atmosphere. So this is the basically visuals of that. Coming to the very important part of today's era, and the very bigger challenge which we all are facing up, knowingly unknowingly, is about at raising atmospheric temperature. So we have all seen that our temperature has been raised from pre-industrial level. So that is something is very challenging, and we all know the consequences of that. So these are the few greenhouse gases, and the sources of generation of those greenhouse gases. Like the major source of greenhouse gas effect is CO2, that is carbon dioxide, and the major source of this carbon dioxide is basically from fossil fuel consumptions, and then transportation, coal and crude oil, all of that. Then the second is methane. Again, that gets generated from agricultural, natural gas, landfills, and then nitrous oxides, then fluorocarbons, then sulfur dioxide, fluorides, and so on. So these are the basic GHG emission gases are there. We have seen and we have known about evidences. Just a second. Evidences of what are the impacts that is happening due to a raised temperature of due to global warming. So we are all aware about it, and we are going to talk about solutions. What are the solutions of which is there, and we all know that every country have set net zero targets. So how are we in line with that, and how can building sector contribute to become a net zero? So if we consider global GHG emissions by sector wise, we in only energy sectors contribute to 73.2% of emissions. And from that, energy used in building contributes to 17.5% of emissions, which is very, very significant. And this we are only talking about energy which is used in buildings. And apart from that, there are source of emissions from the materials and then recycling or landfill which goes to from construction activities. So only energy use talks about like contributes around 17.5% of energy GHG emissions. Again, like if we talk about contribution of the buildings into GHG emissions, uh, this can be categorized into two areas. One is building operations, and then second is the construction activity. Building operations itself contribute around 28% of emissions, and then building materials contribute around 11% of emissions. Now in building operations, entire life cycle of building during operations can be considered. That is majorly by energy consumption, and then again water waste, all of that is a part of it. Building materials is something wherein right from the extraction of the materials to the process, transportation to the site, or from raw material transportation to the plant, everything comes under emissions, which has been done by particular materials which is used in construction again. Talking about again entire life cycle of the building. Building material itself has embodied emissions, that is the emissions which has happened due to material manufacturing. Then second emissions which comes to the construction is the transportation, then construction activities. During the construction also there are multiple emission happens. Then the major emission sources which we discuss about around 27% of emission which happens because of buildings operational use. Now again here is entire energy consumption is a major part of that, and then we have other activities which again contributes to embodied emission, that is repair and maintenance, and then end of life, that is demolition of the building, again transportation, disposal, everything is part of that. So majorly again can be contributed, like can be segregated in two emissions. One is the emissions in operational use, and then second is embodied emissions. So these are the major two contributors for the GHG emissions by building sector. Now, if we look at the scenario, uh, if you can look at the left hand side, around 69% of the emissions from overall contributor of building sector, that comes from operations and utility management. Then second biggest contributor is the raw material which has been used for the operations, sorry, for the construction of the building, and then maintenance of the building as well. And then obviously there are certain small emissions for the design stage and construction, which is altogether 3%. Now, when we are talking about decarbonizing the building sector, there are major two wheels which we need to talk about. One is sustainable building design. So, and then efficient operation. So we need to reduce emissions which has been in embodied emissions which is into the construction and building material, and then the emissions which happens due to the operations that can be reduced by various energy conservation, water conservation, waste conservation measures. So these are the two wheels which is going to drive decarbonization into building sector. Now, again, into building embodied I mean, analysis. If we come to the analysis part of any buildings emissions, so these are there are different kind of tools which is available in the market. So which we are going to discuss about it. The stages of building emission has been again mentioned over here. A1 to A3 is about a product stage, the products which has been used into building. A4 to A5 is about a construction stage. So whatever emission happens because of transportations to the construction and the construction activities comes under that. Then use phase, that is again use, maintenance, repairs, replacement, refurnishment, everything comes under use phase. And then end of life phase is there, wherein we talk about disposal of those materials, and then maybe recycling part as well. So all of that is part of emissions. Uh, we have now understood about source of emission. If that is very clear to you, let's come to the next part, and that is what are the tools which we can use for calculating and monitoring the emissions into the building. The first is very important, that is the embodied emission and the entire life cycle emission, and that is there are multiple tools which is available into the market. The softwares like Sima Pro, Gabi, One Click, these are the LCA softwares. These LCA softwares can help you out to understand how much emission is embodied into any kind of material, and basically how much material we are using to construct that building is something. If we multiply, then we will get how much embodied emission has been we have integrated into the building. So this is something which comes under tools, which is very important. And there are days which has gone. I mean we should say that those days are gone, which we can use whatever material we want, in irrespective of where that material has been manufactured, how much distance that material has been transported to our site, and what will be the consequences of that material. So it all of that has to be considered nowadays. So we are talking about net zero buildings, and net zero buildings cannot it is impossible to build a net zero buildings without integrating eco-friendly materials. So that is very clear to you. Next to uh, we have discussed about embodied emissions. Now next is operational emissions, and that is something which we can uh, monitor, and we can evaluate at the time of design only, is through energy simulation software. We all might have heard about of eQuest, Design Builder, Energy Plus. So these are the softwares which will help you out to understand what will be the energy consumption scenario of while building will be ready in next 20, 50 years, how much energy it is going to be consumed. So the inputs which we give to the software is something about what are the materials, design parameters of everything, and at what outdoor environment your building is going to be situated in. So there are process which we need to follow up. Like we need to create a model of the building, and then we can plug multiple possibilities into the building. We can even check the orientation of the building as well. So how does that impact onto the energy, all of that. So these are the tools which will help us to understand what is going to be the operational scenario of the energetic emission when the building is ready. Once the simulation is done, you will be able to understand not only the energy performance of the building, you will able to understand what is going to be the indoor environmental condition as well. So it does take care about fresh air. It does take care about other parameters like lighting and all of that. And then once we have completed about the softwares, then third tool is about standards and certifications. IGBC, LEED, GRIHA, H, BEE, by uh, Energy Star by BEE. All of that is a part of standards and certifications, which is, I mean, plays very important role when we talk about green building certifications. Now we have discussed about the problems. We have discussed about what are the sources of emission and how can we calculate that emissions. What are the tools which we can use to calculate the emissions. It is also important that during the design stage, we design sustainable building. Then into the construction, we integrate what is being designed, what we have referred into the design, and then the same should be followed into the construction activity should be sustainable, and then the same methodology should be followed into operations. So the intent of design should be carried out into the construction, and it should be carried out into the operations. So these are the three phases of the building: design, construction, and operations. All three needs to be sustainable, and then only the building can be sustainable. And we'll go to the net zero part of the building. But before that, we need to understand what is the first step of going further for the net zero. Major part of solutions lies into the green buildings. We have understood and we have tested into the industry that green buildings are much better as compared to the conventional buildings. Uh, Here, I'm not talking about certifications only. I'm talking about uh, the methodology which has been used while designing and constructing a green building. So this is the solution lies between the standard, and this is something which we are going to discuss further into the session. So what are the key features of green building? So green building is something which use a minimum amount of energy consumption. So there are benchmarks for the energy consumption. We have known about EPI index, Energy Performance Index. So that is something we can, like, our building can be compared with uh, any kind of buildings worldwide. Again, EPI, Energy Performance Index, is varies based on what kind of ambient conditions you are building in. So, but yes, and the unit of EPI is something which is how much unit of energy consumption has been happen for per square meter of for per square meter of building during 1 year. So that is something which we should be use as a benchmark. And green buildings are much more better as compared to the conventional buildings when it comes to energy consumption. Eco-friendly materials is something second, which is a major contributor for the uh, building sector emissions. So embodied emission is something which we have seen how much it contributes to building emission, and green buildings are much more better into when it comes to material selections as well. Then third is water conservation, waste management, and not only from energy point of view, green buildings are much more better when it comes to occupant health. So indoor air quality and productivity of occupants is something which is seen far better as compared to the conventional buildings by multiple scientific studies. Now, these are the few differences uh, or the sentences which says why green buildings are better than conventional buildings. So when it comes to green building, it uses high efficiency of equipments, which again helps to reduce your uh, in energy demand, and then it also enhance your sustainability through renewable energy sources. Again, then there is a part which is insulation. Then there is a part of other new technology adoption. So this is again far better into green buildings. And when we follow the green building standards, basically, apart from that, water, material, design philosophy, even the cost, which is initial cost of the green building, is on a higher side. But we have seen that the green building pays off in very less years. So, and then whatever next years are there, so those years are basically a bonus for that. So economically also, green buildings makes absolutely sense. It's not nowadays, it's not like that if you want to go for sustainability into buildings, then it will be economically, it will be not viable. So it's not the case now. We all have seen that the material cost, sustainable material cost, has been drastically dropped. And not only that, even the cost of renewable energy has been also dropped. So overall, uh, financially also, it have started making sense. Then apart from that, indoor and environmental quality, which is we have discussed. So basically, green building have much more uh, natural lighting, which is again helps to reduce your artificial lighting. Again, that has positive impact on your productivity and health of occupants. Apart from that, waste reduction, it will directly help you to meet regulatory compliances of the states and country. So all of that is again part of green building, and which makes green buildings better than conventional buildings. Uh, we have we know that India have made commitment to become net zero by 2070. Again, which is very challenging. Earlier we had made commitment of 2050, and now we have revised it to 2070. There are multiple key levers are there into the journey, and then majorly which is going to be contributed into net zero journey. Uh, those shall be those will be same into net zero journey of the building sector as well. Those are the buildings is going to be going to generate the required electricity by itself, uh, on site majorly, and can be off site as well. So this is something we call it as a net zero energy. Apart from that, net zero buildings is something which is only dependent on the have not dependent on the grid. It is dependent on the on-site renewable energy. So that is something which is very important part. Apart from that, in terms of carbon emission as well, we have seen whatever emission the building is going to be we have building is going to be do, that has to be embodied by other means, and that can be by carbon credits, or that can be by different uh, CCOs. When
Hello.
yeah, is
Hi,
my
Alkesh.
screen
This is
visible?
Soumya. Hello. Alkesh, can you hear me? Hi, this is Soumya. Your
I
voice
can
is
hear you. I can hear
breaking in
you. Yes.
between. Your video
I'm
and
sorry.
voice in the presentation is breaking in between. Maybe if you want to connect to a
Okay.
different connection. Sure.
Okay. 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 Sure. Give me a second.
Sure, sure. Just give us a minute, everyone.
Hi, am I audible now clearly?
Yeah, this is better. You're audible better. Thank you, Alkesh.
Okay, just a second. I'm just sharing my screen. Yes. Is my screen visible again?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. Uh,
Sure.
yeah. Uh, just a second. Uh, Again, I'll need your help. Was I audible into last slide?
Yeah, you were audible in the last slide. We can hear you now. From
Okay,
here, you can start. Thank you.
great. Thank you so much. So the next part which we are going to discuss is about how basically material contributes to net zero, and what are the major materials which will help us to into the transition journey of net zero. One is, first of all, I mean, obviously, better way of reducing emissions into the material is to recycle and use reused of materials. I mean, that's the best way, and nothing can replace that. Uh, so we should use recycled material, such as concrete, steel, which have recycled content in that, and then the wood, which has been manufactured by recycled wood. So that is something which is very useful to reduce embodied emissions into the building. Next is reduce, I mean, demand of virgin sources, that is minimize waste, reuse of materials, and then use wood and old bricks into the building construction. So that will reduce our basic embodied emissions of the building. Next is use low embodied energy materials. So again, if you have to use materials which is new, and then we have options to select a material from two different materials, so we should go with the low embodied energy materials. Few examples of that is fly ash concrete. Again, as compared to normal brick, the embodied emissions done by fly ash concrete is almost 30 to 40% lesser. Also, it has benefits into the operations because it provides you better insulation into the operations. Similar bamboos and natural stones are something which have lower embodied energy as compared to the brick, the conventional brick. Now, the second important thing which we need to consider while sourcing of material is something, how from what distance material is being sourced to the building. So it's not only about eco-friendly material. So suppose some eco-friendly material has been manufactured in some other country, the emission itself during the transportation will nullify that. So it doesn't make sense. So it's important to use locally sourced materials. Apart from that, there are different materials which has been manufactured from renewable and rapidly renewable materials. So that again we need to take in account. Again, bamboo related materials is something which is very good example of that. So that has to be considered. Apart from that, low VOC content material. VOC has been basically found into adhesives and paints, different kind of coatings, all of that. So that has to be again considered while selecting the material. Again, it's not about only sustainability. It's also about how much your building is healthy for your occupants. So VOC plays a very important role into that. Apart from that, we also need to understand it's not about only materials which is going to be contribute into embodied emission. Also, we need to select material which has higher performance into insulation. So insulation can help you out, help us into reducing our air conditioning load, energy consumption for the air conditioning, and heating as well wherever. it is requirement are there. So all of that has to be considered. And then next is energy efficient glazing. Glazing again plays very important role when it comes to the emissions which has been happened, and air conditioning sizing has to be decided based on the kind of heat load. And heat load comes from the heat ingress which happens majorly through glazing part. So energy efficient windows with low emissivity, that is something which has been suggested by standards like green buildings to reduce our heat load into building. Again, there are different kind of uh, glasses has been came into the market. So double glazing, triple glazing, these are the glasses which has air gaps in between. So the air gaps basically provides very good insulation, and heat ingress from the windows has been reduced to 80 to 70% into the building, and obviously that impacts onto energy consumption of the air conditioning. Also, there uh, there are new technologies we like dynamic glasses. So based on the electricity flows through the glasses tinted percentage can be changed, and that is very useful when it comes to avoid heat ingress through windows. So these are the new technologies which is into the market, which has to be uh, taken into account while selecting the glazings based on the requirement. Again, that can be analyzed through energy simulations model. Energy simulation is something which will give you idea about what will be the impact of different kind of glazing into our building. So you don't need to go for double or triple glazing into entire envelope. You can select a particular envelope, and there only you can go for particular double or triple glazing windows or the tinted glasses, as I mentioned. So it will help you out to select materials consciously. At the same time, it should not happen that your payback period will be on a longer side. So it will help you out to evaluate both of that. Apart from that, the recycled content into the product is something which is very important. And recycled content, uh, nowadays there are different kind of certifications available, which will tell you that how much sustainable product is there. This particular product is how much sustainable, and how much recycled product is being used into manufacturing of that particular product. Basically, recycled content is available into the cement, it is available into AC blocks, it is available into the glass, it is available into the steel, and other products as well. So that has to be considered, which will help you again out to reduce embodied emission of the building. Apart from that, obviously there are certifications like FSC, which will tell you that which product is how much sustainable, and it will give you a comparison between different kind of products. So it's very important to understand products available. I'm sorry, I guess there's some network issue. Was I audible, or is there an issue again into hearing
We
out
just
or
lost you
seeing
for
my
a
screen?
second there. Now we can hear you,
Acha, acha.
Alkesh.
That's great. I'm really sorry for this.
No, no, these things happen. Quite all right. We can continue.
So again, we have discussed about the material part, but when it comes to the operational part, we need to understand the selection of the material or the equipment should be based on the life cycle, not only the upfront cost. So energy efficiency is something which is very important. And then it's not only about putting up the right design, it's also about uh, selecting, I mean, selecting right procedure for operating those equipments. So energy efficiency measures during operations is something which is very important. Right operations and maintenance can highly contribute to reduce energy consumption into the building. So this is again very important part. It is not only about selecting five-star AC. It is also about how much efficient that five-star AC performs after down the line 2 or 3 years. So if to perform any equipment energy efficiently, the operations and maintenance has to be done in the right way, at the right frequency. The second is again the emissions which happens through the refrigerants is something which is important. Yeah, is again important. And the selection of the refrigerants again should be on the basis of its GWP value. So that is something we should be consider. Again, we should not go for CFCs, all of those kind of refrigerants. And if it is already into your system, you should phase out that in a systematic manner. So that is something again third important pillar. The once you are at some level of energy efficiency, then we should think about going for a renewable energy and offset grid energy consumption by renewable energy. That can be two ways. One is on-site renewable energy and offset renewable energy. That can be complemented by energy storage. So whatever energy consumption you do through grid, that again can be offsetted by battery energy storage system in evening as well. Battery energy storage system will also help you out to reduce your scope 1 emission by DGs. So diesel generator emissions, we have seen that drastically drops down when we have integrated battery energy storage system. So and then obviously integration of all the carbon signals and putting up the right monitoring system through the BMS or energy monitoring system into the building. So these are the major pillars which is there into decarbonization of the building. We have gone through the how we can reduce embodied emission and then how we can reduce the emissions into the operation space. Uh, these are the solutions which has been developed and which has been uh, filling up the need of net zero buildings. One is low carbon cement available into the market. Green steel, again, which has higher content of uh, recycled steel. Low carbon insulation, again, which has lower embodied carbon into it. Low cost engineered wood. So again, this wood is been manufactured by from recycled wood. So that is something uh, which has been we should take in consideration while putting up furniture inside our building or putting up any interior wood material. Apart from that, we should think about HVAC equipment, which is higher efficient. So in India, we have a star rating by BEE. So we should not go below 3 star. Based on 3 star to 5 star selection, you can do based on how much usage of that equipment have. So the higher equipment usage should have higher efficiency. That has to be always keep in mind. And if the equipment has very lesser use, then therein we can think about overall impact of energy consumption and the initial cost impact as well. Then we have again whatever lighting fixtures we install into the building or other fixtures we install into the building has to be uh, designed and selected carefully. Different benchmarks. Like for lighting system, we have lighting power density as a benchmark. So how much lighting power consumption has been happening into the building for per square feet of area, per square meter of area is something they have standard values, and you should also evaluate your consumption for lighting through those benchmarks and compare with those benchmarks. So selecting right lighting and designing that lighting as well is very important. And apart from that, obviously, uh, we can go for electrical vehicle charging system. We can go for carbon credits and finance some green projects as well. So all of that is something we can consider in later on stages. uh, Again, into solar as well. We have different ways of doing it. We have on-site, we have off-site, we have capex methodology, we have opex methodology. Like we can select whether you want to put your capital investment or someone else can put the capital investment for you, and they can charge you on per unit basis. So all of these solutions are available. It's only about intent, and if you don't have a space, you can go for offsite renewable energy, or that means basically someone else is producing renewable energy at some distance, and then from grid you are basically consuming that green energy. So that is another way of looking at this. So these are the major contributors, and apart from that, also while we upgrade to any equipment, or while we do any kind of renovation, same methodology or ideology shall be adopted. We shall take account embodied energy and use phase energy consumption. Uh, there are multiple case studies available into the market, and which shows net zero energy buildings are possible. It's not a dream nowadays. It is absolutely practical. It makes economical sense, and also it is contributor to our national goal of net zero. So this is one of the school in US, which is basically certified by LEED, zero energy, and that is because obviously the whatever energy consumption is being done by this building is that energy is being generated on site into the school. So when we talk about net zero energy, it's not only about putting up whatever capacity of solar panels as required. It is about minimizing your demand side energy consumption, and then design your building as per uh, the capacity of renewable energy you can generate. So this is the methodology we should be adopt. There are those days has been gone, that how much whatever quantity of energy you want you can consume from the grid. It should not be the case right now. So we should consciously design the building in a way so that it should be self-sustainable. So this again a project which we were discussing have around 1,700 panels, which contributes to $100,000 of savings in a year. So which is very significant, and the area of the building is also not on a smaller side. It is 98,000 square feet of school. I mean, that is huge. Again, occupants is on obviously it's a school, so occupants will be not on a lesser side. So if this project can go for a net zero, I mean, there are practical ways to do it. Again, same we have integrity headquarter. So that has around 13,000 square feet of building. Again, which has almost 100% of energy consumption which is happening into the building is generated on site. So they have 50 kilowatt of solar rooftop onto the building, and they have again put up the system which is on very high end in terms of energy efficiency, so that they can fulfill those demand from on-site of energy production. There is again one building into the Brazil, which is again 440 square meter of in terms of area. Again, which have around 15 kilowatt photovoltaic arrays, provides around 125% of energy which is needed. So it's not only about net zero. There are buildings which is net positive in terms of energy consumption. So this is again a way of looking at the building in future. Uh, we have speak about US and Brazil and other countries, but not only outside India and inside India as well. We have multiple buildings which is net zero, and one of that is CII's Godrej GBC India Business Center in Hyderabad. I will request or I'll suggest you guys should visit if you haven't visited this building. It's very fantastically designed. Uh, f- uh, it's absolutely marvelous to see that the kind of energy efficiency measures they have implemented into the building, sustainable measures they have implemented into the building, and have basically sustainable uh, design can contribute in terms of net zero. So 100% of the daylight is being used into building. So entire floor can be covered by daylight. We obviously have solar panels, uh, which is providing energy into the building. And not only that, they have used higher efficient HVAC system and passive cooling system as well. Again, passive cooling is something which plays very important role when it comes to India. In India, we have multiple climate zones, and in dry climate zones like Hyderabad and like Rajasthan, like those spaces, also in middle of India, like MP. These are the states where we can go for passive cooling. Coolings from evaporative systems is very efficient way of cooling the building. So that is something which we need to look into. Rainwater harvesting ponds and irrigation, which has been happening through non-potable water, is something again key feature of this building. Uh, Again, apart from that, they have a different methodology of recycling the water. So the fresh water consumption into the building is on very less. Again, sustainable materials is something which they have used. So it has been constructed 80% recycled and recyclable materials. So this cement, pavers, blocks, bricks, everything are recycled and made from the recycled materials. Apart from that, the passive ways of reducing energy consumption has been used, like cross ventilation, and reducing, I mean, again, a part of indoor air quality as well. So all of that is bigger contribution for reducing energy consumption through passive ways. Apart from that, waste management, indoor air quality is something which is very good into this building. They have provided electrical charging stations, which is open to use for everyone. And there are other areas like landscaping, sustainable landscaping, planting the native plants into the landscape, all of that. So that is something which has to be considered when we talk about any net zero buildings. Yes, there are challenges into making these buildings net zero. We have rapid urbanization and increasing energy demands, uh, which is becoming very difficult for making those or supplying those energy from renewable energy. So we need to work on to demand side of energy. Reliance on traditional construction materials and methods with high embodied carbon is something, again, from the material point of view, is very bigger challenge. We have certain limitations when it comes to adoption of energy efficiency and technologies, majorly due to initial cost implications, and then obviously a lack of awareness and understanding into the key stakeholders is something which is very bigger challenge to move to net zero. We have discussed about challenges, but there are opportunities as well. There are opportunities in terms of economical growth, as we have seen that whichever country has been moving to net zero in a faster way will be again ahead in terms of economical power as well. Um, I mean, again, decarbonization opens multiple job creation doors as well. It increases the demand of green buildings, so eco-friendly infrastructure demand has been grown. So again, and in scenario of India, we have bigger potential of renewable energy. So we have, I mean, lot of uh, days with entire like sunlight available. So we have very huge potential for renewable energy. So that has to be uh, looked into while obviously designing the buildings. Yes, we need to encourage, adopt sustainable practices into the construction, buildings, and operations, which we have discussed. We need to promote awareness and education into the sustainable practices. So it's not only about knowing the knowledge; it should be about transferring that knowledge to others as well. So this is something which is very important. Collaborate with industry stakeholders for innovation and technology adoption. The conclusion is it's collective responsibility of individuals, business, and government to make a difference. It's not someone single-handedly can be done. So entire policies, each individual way of living the life, everything is going to be contributed into this journey. This is about EKI. EKI is someone who can help you out into this journey. We have been into the carbon credit market from very long time. We are listed into onto BSE, and we have multiple sustainability certifications and services available with us. So we can help you out in terms of sustainability reporting. We can help you out in terms of decarbonization of buildings. We can help you out with the certifications like green buildings and planning in terms of decarbonization or net zero of the building, net zero strategies, and climate, CSR investments, all of that. Even for third party verifications, assurance, all of this is part of our services. So please get in touch with us if you need any help in future. Thank you so much, Stuti. I'm open for the question to all the team members and attendants. Please, uh, if you have any doubts, let me know.
Thanks, Alkesh. That was a very informative presentation. I think we can now open the session for any questions that the participants may have. You can switch on your mics and ask the questions. Okay, you can also mail us the questions at dbusinesscharter@gmail.com. I'll just provide the email address in the chat box. So you can send the questions if you have any on this.
Thank you so much, Tuti. I guess there is no question. We can conclude today's session.
I think
Sorry.
there's a question. Your
Yeah,
voice is
Bhaskar, it's
breaking.
very difficult to hear you actually.
Bhaskar, your voice is not audible. It's breaking off. उन्हीं को बोला है क्या?
Bhaskar, you can put your question in chat box as well, or put question mail. You actually, we are really sorry we are not able to hear you properly. So
I think he'll share his question in the chat box. His voice was not audible. I've asked him.
sure. Veer Singh Patel have already commented onto the battery part. The real issue with the battery storage is the life of battery. Since the life of battery is lesser than 5 years, how is the use of battery in solar system feasible? So hi Veer, and thanks for asking this question. Definitely, your concern is and your question is very right. The life of battery has been issue. Now there are many companies which are working on to recycling of the battery. The battery life lies somewhere around 7 8 years 10 years. There are different kind of batteries new technology upgraded batteries are there, which have higher efficiency and higher life as well. But yes, when we talk about emission, it is embodied emission and operational emission. So if you are taking example of battery, the battery itself during the operation offsets your emissions which has been happened into the manufacturing and again recycling of the battery. So it is when we look at from holistic approach, yes, it makes sense to use a battery from economical and sustainability point of view both. Even at the current stage, and I know in future it will become better only. Yes,
As
Bhaskar had
Bhaskar
put
is
this.
also.
Has EKI done any carbon mapping of any specific large buildings? Also, uh, EKI done any carbon projects in building? We have been doing JG accounting, carbon mapping of LCA for multiple projects. Yes, we have done for buildings as well. So this is something EKI do. EKI will help you out in terms of LC analysis. AKI can help you out in terms of designing the building in the right way. AKI can help you out into GHG accounting in design, construction, and operational phase. And again, how to make it to net zero is something on a strategy level. AKI can help you out. So thank you so much, Bhaskar, for this question. Pooja is again asking, are there organizations selling green steels, green cement, low cost engineer woods? Yes, there are organizations, bigger, smaller organizations like Tata, Adani. When we talk about cement, there are Ambuja Cement. All of them who is manufacturing cement have type of cement which have higher recycle content. Again, low cost engineering wood is something which is very commonly used into industry as well. So there are multiple bigger and local vendors which is available for those. Yeah, I guess Stuti.
Okay, yeah. So I think we'll have other questions. If people have other questions, they can always write to dbusinesscharter@gmail.com. It's in the chat box. And thank you, Alkesh, and all the participants. Uh, and
Thank you,
tomorrow, same
participants.
time,
You
we
have
shall have
been.
the session on thermal comfort and affordable housing by Miss Namrata Damankar. Yes, Alkesh, you were saying?
No, that's it, Stuti. Thank you so much.
Okay.
You have been great audience,
Thank you,
all of
everyone.
you.
We can conclude this session. Yeah. Thank you.